C'est bientôt. Say, except for one little thing, something I simply can't tell you without blushing all over. Will you tell me later? If we sit in the dark and you let me whisper, I will. Do you sleep in your old room or in a heap with Mother? Old room. Your mother may have to undergo a very serious operation, Lo. Stop at that candy bar, will you? Said Lo. Sitting on a high stool, a band of sunlight crossing her bare brown forearm, Lolita was served an elaborate ice cream concoction topped with synthetic syrup. It was erected and brought her by a pimply brute of a boy in a greasy bow tie who eyed my fragile child in her thin cotton frock with carnal deliberation. My impatience to reach Bryceland and the enchanted hunters was becoming more than I could endure. Fortunately, she dispatched the stuff with her usual alacrity. How much cash do you have? I asked. Not a cent, she said sadly, lifting her eyebrows, showing me the empty inside of her money purse. This is a matter that will be amended in due time, I rejoined archly. Are you coming? Say, I wonder if they have a washroom. You are not going there, I said firmly. It's sure to be a vile place. Do come on. She was on the whole an obedient little girl, and I kissed her in the neck when we got back into the car. Don't do that, she said, looking at me with unfeigned surprise. Don't drool on me, you dirty man. She rubbed the spot against her raised shoulder. Sorry, I murmured. I'm rather fond of you, that's all. We drove under a gloomy sky, up a winding road, and then down again. Well, I'm also sort of fond of you, said Lolita in a delayed, soft voice, with a sort of sigh, and sort of settled closer to me. Oh, my Lolita, we shall never get there. Dusk was beginning to saturate pretty little Bryceland, its phony colonial architecture, curiosity shops, and imported shade trees, when we drove through the weakly lighted streets in search of the enchanted hunters. The air, despite a steady drizzle beating it, was warm and green, and a queue of people, mainly children and old men, had already formed before the box office of a movie house, dripping with jewel fires. Oh, I want to see that picture. Let's go right after dinner. Oh, let's. We might, chanted Humbert, knowing perfectly well, the sly tumescent devil, that by 9, when his show began, she would be dead in his arms. Easy, cried Lo, lurching forward, as an accursed truck in front of us, its backside carbuncles pulsating, stopped at a crossing. If we did not get to the hotel soon, immediately, miraculously, in the very next block, I felt I would lose all control over the hazed jalopy with its ineffectual wipers and whimsical brakes. But the passers-by I applied to for directions were either strangers themselves or asked with a frown, enchanted what, as if I were a madman. Or else they went into such complicated explanations with geometrical gestures, geographical generalities, and strictly local clues. Then bear south after you hit the courthouse, that I could not help losing my way in the maze of their well-meaning gibberish. Lo, whose lovely prismatic entrails had already digested the sweetmeat, was looking forward to a big meal, and had begun to fidget. As to me, although I had long become used to a kind of secondary fate, McFate's inept secretary, so to speak, pettily interfering with the boss's generous, magnificent plan, to grind and grope through the avenues of Bryceland was perhaps the most exasperating ordeal I had yet faced. In later months I could laugh at my inexperience when recalling the obstinate boyish way in which I had concentrated upon that particular inn with its fancy name, for all along our route countless motor courts proclaimed their vacancy in neon lights, ready to accommodate salesmen, escaped convicts, impotents, family groups, as well as the most corrupt and vigorous couples. Our gentle drivers, gliding through summer's black nights, what frolics, what twists of lust you might see from your impeccable highways if comfy cabins were suddenly drained of their pigments and became as transparent as boxes of glass. The miracle I hankered for did happen after all. A man and a girl, more or less conjoined in a dark car under dripping trees, told us we were in the heart of the park, but had only to turn left at the next traffic light, and there we would be. We did not see any next traffic light. In fact, the park was as black as the sins it concealed, but soon after falling under the smooth spell of a nicely graded curve, the travellers became aware of a diamond glow through the mist. Then a gleam of lake water appeared, and there it was, marvellously and inexorably under spectral trees, at the top of a gravel drive, the pale palace of the enchanted hunters. A row of parked cars, like pigs at a trough, seemed at first sight to forbid access, But then, by magic, a formidable convertible, resplendent, rubious in the lighted rain, came into motion, was energetically backed out by a broad-shouldered driver, and we gratefully slipped into the gap it had left. I immediately regretted my haste, for I noticed that my predecessor had now taken advantage of a garage-like shelter nearby, where there was ample space for another car, but I was too impatient to follow his example. "Wow, looks swank," remarked my vulgar darling, squinting at the stucco as she crept out into the audible drizzle, and with a childish hand tweaked loose the frock-fold that had stuck into the peach cleft, to quote Browning. Under the arc lights, enlarged replicas of chestnut leaves plunged and played on white pillars. I unlocked the trunk compartment. A hunchbacked and hoary negro in a uniform of sorts took our bags and wheeled them slowly into the lobby.